Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. You are joined by your two usual hosts here. We've got Tom Mannering.
Hello.
And myself, Josh Hartley. How's the week been, Tom, since we last spoke? He has put his fingers up to indicate that he is not quite ready to speak yet.
I'm just readjusting where my mic is. I realised it was in the wrong place. So
right.
I was just fixing it.
Oh, yeah, you sound a lot louder now. That's good.
That's
I
why.
might keep this in. I don't know. But,
please don't. I mean, I know you probably will because it's easier for you to not edit it out.
Oh, you see right through me as well.
I do.
How's things anyway?
Things are good. It is Friday evening when we're recording this. It's obviously Sunday or another day entirely when you're listening to it. But for us, it is Friday evening, so obviously I've just finished work, which is never a bad thing. And I'm looking forward to a pretty chill weekend ahead of me. I've got a few bits and pieces. I'm maybe running 2 games this weekend, 1 or 2, but I'm actually going to be starting on Sunday the Call of the Netherdeep, which is the Critical Role D&D adventure. So I've done some. So it starts at level 3. I've done a couple of level 1 and 2 sessions with them just to kind of get them into the characters and stuff.
Okay.
But we're starting the module proper on Sunday, so I'm really excited about that. And for the first time ever, I realise I'm giving you a lot of a longer answer than you anticipated. But
this is great. This is content, Tom.
For the first time ever, I bought the module on Roll20, so it's all ready on Roll20.
It's all digital. So does that mean that all the maps are already there?
Yep, all the maps. All the maps are there, all the tokens are there, all the actual content is there, so you can actually pull it up and read it. I'm still ordering the book as well, because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I want to spend twice the price for the same product. But it's twofold. Is one, it saves me having to do all the work of actually prepping the thing, which is a lot of work. I can tell you for free. And 2, this ties into something I'm going to discuss a bit later in today's episode. The book isn't actually coming out here until the end of April. It's officially released and you can get it, but because of certain shipping issues at the moment, I'm not getting it until the end of April. So I wanted to run it because it's out, and I told my guys we're starting it, and then Amazon updated me and said, "Oh, BT dubs, you're not getting this until the end of April. Hope you've got content planned for a month." They didn't say that. That'd be a weird message from Amazon.
Yeah, that was like, Jeff, how do you know?
And I was like, well, I don't really want to postpone for a month, and they're already at the right level for it, so I just bought it on Roll20, and I'm going to run it off there until I get the book as well. Right. So that's where I'm at. That's my week and my weekend in view.
Your week in a nutshell. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when this episode releases, I will probably be running that game about the same time. Hence why there probably won't be a social media post, because I keep forgetting to do those.
It's all good. It's all good. Who's in the campaign?
So it's a bit of a hodgepodge of people, to be honest. I sort of offered it up to. I play with quite a few groups, as you well know. So
he gets around.
I do.
A GM.
I'm a hussy of a player and a GM. I offered it up to all the groups I was in and said, "This is the campaign I want to do. This is my plans for it. This is when it's going to run. Who's free and who's interested?" So I've got Ryan, who has been on the show before. I've got Colin, who runs a lot of the games I play in, and I've known him since university. I've got Kenny, who I've also known since university, plays in another game that I play in. And I've got Ian, who's a guy who's actually quite new to me. I kind of know him through other people. So he's joined as well. So I've just got the 4. I like to keep D&D to a 4-player group, because I like to give
4
them
or 5 at the most, right?
5 is my cap, generally, yeah. Except when I'm doing the crossover games, in which case, 9 is my cap. But as a general rule for a campaign, 5 is my cap. I'll do 6 for one-shots and stuff.
5. So there's friends of mine down here in a D&D campaign, and they have 8 regular players.
I don't understand that. It hurts my brain to even think about running that as a campaign.
I think Michael, who's the GM, has to do a lot of admin, obviously. to keep it running. I think it kind of works so because I think there's a lot of sessions where not everyone can attend. So
so I think I don't want to get too off track, right? But I think there's a couple of things. One, if you've got it where one or two people don't turn up every session, you're running then with like 6, maybe 7. That's a little more palatable.
Still a lot.
Still a lot, right?
Yeah.
The thing for me as well, and people who like Critical Role might argue this, but I think with 7 players, even with 6 players, and certainly with 8 players, it's so much harder to make sure everybody's getting that chance in the spotlight and getting that bit of story and stuff. Like, I struggle to give people story with like 4 or 5 sometimes. Like
Is that maybe partly due to the player rather than the particular player?
I have 1 or 2 players who are more engaged with the story than others, and will sometimes engage with story that isn't necessarily meant for them, because they're so thirsty. They're thirsty for the tale, right? And that's great. That's a good place to be in. But sometimes
Thirsty for the Tale is going to be the name of this week's episode. Just FYI.
That's Tale, Tale.
Yes, no, yeah.
It's not a furry thing, right?
Yeah.
And they just really want to be involved, and that is great. But yeah, it can sometimes be frustrating when you're like, this is his story. Shut up, sit down, just wait. Your time will come.
Yeah. Good. So I've been gaming this week in multiple different ways. We had our Star Wars game on Tuesday.
We did,
which was good. We've landed on this planet. It appears anyway that we've beaten our target to this planet as well. So we've got some time to prep and get ready for when he arrives. I'm sure that'll all go fine when that comes.
You got to visit some of the local culture as well. You visited a local brothel in classic role-playing style.
This Star Wars film just shot up in the BBFC certificate rating.
Yeah, it went from sort of your U or maybe a PG with a bit of the language, and now it's like well up there into like 12A.
Yeah. So we did that. Most exciting, I had another game of 40k. This is the most 40k I think I've ever played. So
that's what, 4 games? No,
4 games in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
4 games in a couple of weeks.
We've got one of our other friends, Matt, who we mentioned previously when we were talking about our crusade weekend. He couldn't make it because unfortunately he came down with COVID. So what me and Matt are doing is we're playing through a couple of crusade games ourselves. So we just started on 25 power level. We rolled up the assassinate mission again, and so he plays Deathwing, so all Terminators. And he's done a great job of painting them as well, I should say, because he brought his entire force with him, and he's got because he's got a Land Raider and a couple he's got 3 dreadnoughts in that army as well. So it looks fantastic. He couldn't field any of that, obviously. He didn't field very many models at all, to be honest. And I thought I would use my Death Guard and get them sort of leveled up a bit, so that they can take part if I don't fancy playing my Necrons.
Sure.
To cut a long story short, my losing streak continues.
Kind of don't want you to cut the story short, to be fair, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah. That chaplain was super hard to kill and a monster in combat. He's got Matt gave him a relic weapon that gets better if he's fighting chaos as well. So
that's cool.
I just got absolutely slapped about by this guy. I did nearly kill him though. I've got one of my Plague Marines has it's called a Great Plague Cleaver. It's basically a big old axe.
Right.
And he nearly managed to take him down.
It's interesting.
Got him down to 1 wound.
In down to 1 wound. So in the Assassinate game I played as well, my leader was down to 1 wound. It seems to come very close to the wire with these Assassinate games.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just me. I mean,
Maybe.
I kind of flung my warlord into him as well, like just going, yeah, let's have a fight. Oh God, oh no.
But I mean, that's the way to do it, right? Like warlord on warlord. That's classic cinematic combat.
Absolutely.
What do you think? I'm gonna delve a little deeper.
Okay.
What do you think is leading to all these losses, Josh?
Probably the fact that I suck at 40k, but like that's fine. I'm the way I'm approaching these games is just I'm not thinking too hard about it and just enjoying it.
Yeah,
no,
that's
still
that's
there?
good.
Sorry, I thought you'd froze for a second, but you were just being very still.
Just a very still person.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm all about calm and peace and
yeah.
really. Do you want me to lift the ban on your unlucky frog dice? Would that help you?
Next time I play against you, we'll find out if that will help or not.
Oh, is that how it is? I'll save
it for you, sir.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm not thinking too much about strategy. I'm kind of going, oh, this will be cool. Let's try that.
The thing
is, just I'm still enjoying playing is the important thing.
Like the thing is as well, I don't think it's fair to understate this, but you don't really have a history of playing 40k to my knowledge in general.
Not really. Dabbled a bit when I was a kid, but
yeah,
that was like 3rd edition, so it has changed a lot.
So I mean, even though obviously the rules have changed, myself, Will, and Matt all have, especially myself and Will, have a very, lengthy history with 40k. I mean, I've been playing the game since 2nd edition, and I've played every edition in some format since then. Albeit, I think one of them 6th, maybe. I played like 2 games, but still. And that sort of informs army choices, it informs tactics. There's just things that, even though the edition's changed, you're fundamentally on a lower level. Not to take the piss out of you. I'm actually saying, it explains why you're maybe not performing quite as well, because you just don't have that background. But you'll get better. It comes with experience, and you'll be getting that feel for what works, what doesn't work, where your army's strengths are, and stuff like that. So that's good, and that's only going to come with playing more games. So the fact that you've had 4 games in as many weeks is really promising.
Yeah, and we've got another game scheduled for a couple of weeks' time as well. So hopefully I fare better in this one.
So this is a running joke that I have with a number of different friends actually, and I call it secret leveling, and it's basically you're not doing it, but you kind of are. It's basically when you start a game with a group of people and you all start at the same level. And then you have one person who does secret leveling, which is they will level when other people aren't leveling. So you find it a lot with like MMOs and stuff. So you'll all start at the same time and you'll play together and you all hit level 20. And then there's always that one guy who is a bit of a jerk off in my head, who just like secretly levels. He goes on when no one else is on and clocks in another 10 levels. And then everyone comes back on and he's like, oh, I'm 10 levels higher than you all. Oh, sorry. It's just I had a free Sunday and I thought, why not level up? It's like, well, kind of the point is we did this together. Now, it's different in your context because you are leveling from the beginning.
Yeah, this is exactly part of the reason why I'm not playing as my Necrons, frankly, is just to keep it fairly even.
Yeah.
And also, it's to get Matt's army up to speed as well.
Yeah, no, I know it's 100% legit. It made me laugh because I gave Will a hard time about it on Overwatch as well, because Will and I were very closely comparative on levels. Levels mean nothing on Overwatch, right? But we were very close on it. And then one day I came on and Will was like 20 levels higher, even though we played together every week at kind of the same times. And I was like, what is this secret leveling BS going on here? Like, he's like, oh, well, I'm the higher level one now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Is what it is. No, that's cool. I'm really glad that you're enjoying the games, even though they're not necessarily going in your favour. But I think because we've focused so much on narrative as well, it takes a lot of the sting out of losing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of cool to imagine these, the terrain that I'd set up as well. I used that Fortress of Redemption, so my head canon is that is the Dark Angel's little base on this planet, that they've established as well. So it was cool cool to imagine like this little squad of Death Guard trying to pull off this assassination.
Do you know
really the wrong tools for the job, sending in like Nurgle infected Marines, but whatever.
I'm saying it takes the sting out of losing. I wouldn't know because I haven't lost it.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
I've told you I'm not playing any more games.
You're retiring from 40k now.
Yep, I've got a 100% batting average. I'm done. I'm out of the game.
Nice. Have you made any plans to play any more 40k at all then, or?
I don't really have anyone to play with up here, so I would need to kind of go into Games Workshop and. I say that actually, that's a lie. I have quite a few people who I could probably play with. It's just not really crossed my mind to even discuss it with them, and I know for a fact their armies aren't painted, and that sort of spits in the face of what I'm going for here. The thing is as well, I haven't got myself in a position where I can play at home yet. I have all my terrain, I have my boards and things, but I would have to put them on the floor because I've not got around to getting a table yet for the living room. I've basically designed my living room to be modular. So that the sofa that you've seen can move and actually goes around the TV stand. So then I could put a pull-in table, fold that out, put boards on top of it, and have a gaming table in the middle of the living room that packs away basically, and then the living room unfolds back into a living room. But I've not got around to getting a table yet. So until I get that, I probably won't be playing 40k in Glasgow.
What I used to do was I had two wallpapering tables, which did the job, but you had to be very mindful to not lean on them, because they do not take a lot of weight at all.
No, they do not. No, I don't like them at all, to be fair. They always make me really nervous.
We didn't have any disasters, fortunately.
Good.
That's the good thing.
That's good. No, I will get around to it. Whether it's that I come back down to Carlisle and I play with you guys again, or I maybe go and see Will, because I promised him I will visit him at his store, so I'll maybe get a game with him the night I go to see him down there. Or something like that. We'll figure something out. But what I have been doing is I've been continuing to work on painting up my Death Guard.
They're looking good, man. You've posted the photos that you've posted anyway. Look neat. So
yeah, I'm really happy with the Hellbrute that I did. So I followed a couple of guides. So I've got kind of a scheme that I do for armor that I've done across all my Death Guard Marines, because I have loads of them, but I've not really painted many of them. So that's what I'm working through at the moment. So I use that for the armor on the Hellbrute. The Hellbrute, for people who don't know, is this kind of big fleshy demon that's then kind of encased in armor. It's like a Chaos Dreadnought type thing.
Yeah,
and I wanted the flesh to look like really putrid, but also really like sore as well. So I followed like these guys to kind of like make the like bits where the metal touches the flesh look kind of like really raw, kind of bruised and raw. And I'm really happy. It's a simple effect. Someone like Ben could just piss all over it, for want of a better way of putting it. But for me, it's a very nice, very effective, albeit simple way to do it.
Yeah, nice. So the other thing that's happened to me, gaming-wise, is a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine, it's actually one of my best pals down here, Jace, it's his wife, Corinne. We were out one night and she was asking, so you play Dungeons and Dragons, don't you? Yeah, I've been playing it for a while. I really want to have a go. So what we've got a group of 4 and we might have a 5th person, all expressed an interest in having a crack at Dungeons and Dragons. I've never ran a game as a GM, so this is an opportunity for me to have a crack at that. But yeah, we've arranged, we're going to run a one-shot game on Easter Saturday, basically, and so that those guys get to dip their toe in the water and see if they enjoy it, and frankly for me, it's to see if I enjoy being a GM or not. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to doing that. What I got given a couple of Christmases ago, the Stranger Things D&D starter kit, and it comes with an adventure that it says you'll be able to play through this in one evening.
Yeah.
So, and a bunch of pre-made characters as well, so that those guys aren't going through all the rigmarole of creating a character for it to not be used ultimately if they decide they don't like it. So that's where I'm at. So Tom, as our regular listeners will be aware, is a long and storied, the eternal GM for our friends. So I was going to ask you, what are your hints and tips? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? What things might be a good idea that I should avoid? That sort of thing. I appreciate I've left that very open-ended.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I could literally go on about this for hours, so I will try.
So buckle in, guys.
Yeah.
This is the 2-hour episode.
We're going long. No, this is for the sake of brevity. So I think when you're running your first game sessions, especially in the situation that you're going to be in, where you're playing with people who aren't familiar with the game at all, potentially aren't even familiar with role-playing at all, I think my biggest piece of advice is focus on the fun. Don't focus on rules. Don't focus too much on mechanics. Don't focus too much on numbers. They're there. They need to be there. They need to be acknowledged. But I wouldn't stop the game to look up rules as much as you might want to, especially if it's a one-shot, because it doesn't matter what the repercussions are, down the road, because it's not like you're going to kill a character off and then turn around and go, oh, actually, that shouldn't have happened because of X or Y rule. Probably don't want to be killing characters off as well. That's probably a piece of advice I'd give you. Unless you're running Call of Cthulhu, in people's first taste, there's nothing worse than getting excited and being killed off in the first 10 minutes. So I think for me, I would always say focus on the fun first. If you're the tricky thing you're doing is because you're running in a limited time environment, I would segment your scenario.
So in my head, if people arrive at 6, make sure, okay, we've got the initial investigation section done by 7.
Yeah.
And then okay, first dungeon done by 8:30, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I kind of look at it. So say, for example, you've got a dungeon that's got 4 rooms in it, right? It's a small dungeon. And I think the Stranger Things one is fairly small. I have seen it, so I know it's fairly small.
There's two very small dungeons.
Yeah, so I would go, right, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour on my introduction and setting it up. We'll spend an hour and a half on point 1, hour and a half on point 2, and an hour to wrap it up, right? And that gives you a bit of playing on either side. You don't need to stick vigorously to it, but I would go, right, we're kind of hitting that, we're 25 minutes in now, they're still kind of blabbering. I need to push them into this next bit a little bit. And you can do that in 2 ways. You can do that in character, so if you've got an NPC that's there that can say, come on, we need to actually go and do this. Or if it's just a case that you need to go, okay, guys, I'm a bit conscious of time. I know this is really cool and I'm really enjoying it, but let's kind of move into the next bit. Because although that's going to decrease their enjoyment a little bit because you're kind of pushing them out of what they're doing, it's going to have an overall better impact than if you get 4 hours in and they're only 2/3 of the way through and they get an unsatisfactory end because they don't reach that last point.
Yeah,
that cool boss or whatever it is. Equally, to support that, if they are really enjoying something, so maybe you do your introduction, they go into the first dungeon, they're having a whale of a time with the first dungeon, but you're like, holy crap, this is overrunning massively, but they're really enjoying it, just cut the second dungeon and move on to just move that last encounter boss, over, whatever you need to do to facilitate that as well. So be adaptable, especially because you're running a module. Don't think, this was the thing that got me so much in my early days of GMing. I wouldn't run modules because, and this is partially because I'm a bit OCD, I didn't like changing them. I didn't like changing what was there. I was like, well, but it's written like this, so it has to be run like this.
I have no problem with doing that whatsoever.
So
it's really cool.
have no sort of aversions. It's the second you start running a module, it becomes yours, and however that plays up is up to you. So I've no aversions to kind of chopping stuff, changing stuff, moving stuff around to make it cool. I think you're in a very good position because you are a very positive person in general. So my biggest piece of advice for new GMs is just be positive and have fun.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people that go into it and they're so apprehensive and they're so nervous, and it comes across. And in an ideal world, you will get players that are enthusiastic, and even if you are nervous, they will kind of lift you up with them because it is a collaborative story experience. So it's not always all about you. And I think sometimes with new players, especially, the GM does have to bear that burden a little bit and does have to be the driving force. They do have to be the positive motivator. You know, you have to be. When I was a GM, you were the host. You know, it was usually in your house, so you were having to set the house up ready for people. You had to have the minis, the models, the boards, the maps. You know, the books. You bear a lot of the burden there, and in the very least, in a first game, that's not quite as heavy because you don't need a wealth of material, right? You just need what's in your starter set, and I think it's got like maps and things in there as well, which is really good for you.
It doesn't actually.
It doesn't.
So
no,
something because this is going to be a sort of follow-on question from your advice.
Okay.
What supplies should I get?
So
what would you deem essential?
What I would say for you so it doesn't have anything besides the actual content.
It's got it's ridiculous actually because it's in a box.
Yeah.
But literally, it's got two very thin books,
right.
Like one with the adventure, one with like the basic rules of D&D.
Yeah.
5 character sheets, and then you get two miniatures, both of the Demigorgon.
Yeah.
One is painted, one is unpainted, and a bunch of dice.
I remember that. I was like, why is there 2 Demigorgons? Why not just give
I know.
one? Okay, so decision. What I would say then is get yourself a wiped clean flip mat. My personal preference, I really like Pezos ones. They are really, really good. They fold up nice and small. They fold out nicely. Just get a simple plain one that's like either grey or sand coloured on it. Yeah. Get yourself some dry erase pens for it. And you're in quite a good position because you've got miniatures. So you could either dig through your miniatures and see what you've got that would be suitable for their models and the enemies. Conversely, if you really want to go fancy, you could go and get like the Bones miniatures, the D&D Bones. They're not expensive, and you can get like a full adventuring party for about a tenner, and get the monsters for probably about another 5-10 quid. So you could fully model it. They won't be painted, granted, but they would be fully modeled for about 20 quid. If you really want to go all out, so about 30 quid, you could put on a really good game because you'll have your map, your models, and then obviously you've got dice and things already. So that depends how extreme you want to go. If you don't want to go that way, there's nothing wrong with just tokens. Like, you know, I've frequently used like different colored gemstones for characters and monsters back in the day before I had like a range of miniatures. I played a game with coins where everybody used like I'm the pound coin, you're the 50p coin. You know, it really doesn't matter. And if you really can't be bothered with that, you can just go Theatre of the Mind. 5th edition, in my opinion, is a system that is catered to maps, but not to the extent that Pathfinder and 4th edition are. You can get away with Theatre of the Mind to a degree. But I find for new players, maps tend to give them something to kind of focus on and keep the combat kind of contextual. But try not to let it get too wargamey, where, you know, they're focusing on that. I'll move my piece 5. I hate that. Like, as soon as someone says I'll move my piece, I'm like, I'm done. Game's done. Game's off. I'm not like that, but in my head I am. You want them to focus on their character, and if they're like wave rules as well, you know, if you've got someone who's like, oh, I want my guy to run into this guy and chop him with a sword, and you look at it and it's like, oh, that's 7 squares. He's actually got 6 squares of movement. Just be like, yep, sure. You run in, you smack him with a sword. You know, just focus on fun for your first session is the biggest piece of advice I give you, because if someone enjoys the game, they will come back to it. If they don't, they won't. And the thing is, they're not going to go into that game, right, and you run an amazing game, you blow everyone's socks off, and it's the best game they ever have. You get to the end and they go, yeah, okay, that was really good fun and I really enjoyed it, but you didn't apply a disadvantage on that goblin's second attack when he was fighting around the corner. Like, nobody does that, right? Like, some players do that when they're 10 years into the hobby and they have a beard on their neck and, you know, things have gone sideways in their life. But for the most part,
you don't know me.
for the most part, people don't do that. So
yeah,
I would definitely say focus on the fun is the best piece of advice, and then everything else will come in behind it.
Yeah. No, sound advice, to be fair, sound advice. I mean, so I've read through the adventure.
Yep.
So I've got an idea on what miniatures. I am going to do miniatures, because they're cool.
Yeah.
It's troglodytes, loads of troglodytes in this one.
Yeah,
so
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, I will source them. And a trestle hydra. It would be cool to have a miniature for the final boss as well.
I don't know if that has a miniature.
It probably doesn't. It's quite a weird.
Yeah, it's a bit obscure.
Monster. Yeah.
You never know.
I'll have a look. I'll find it somewhere.
I'm sure someone's 3D printed it or something.
Now, at the risk of getting ahead of myself, I have thought, okay, how am I going to... What will I do if they do want to run a campaign? So we had a bit of a chat last Friday about what they would be interested in. In my mind, I'm going to, stick more or less to doing an established adventure. Like, Wizards have done, like, a dozen of them for 5th edition, probably more.
Yeah.
But I kind of went through some of the ones that I was going to be interested in running, and like the sort of 3 that I'm gravitating towards are Waterdeep Dragon Heist, Tomb of Annihilation. Tom shakes his head. We'll come to that in a moment. I suspect I know why you're shaking your head for that one. The one I really want to do is Curse of Strahd. Partly because it sounds like such a really cool setting. It's one of the players, Doug, has played D&D before, but back when it was advanced D&D in the 80s.
Okay.
So I think that would be a cool throwback, because that's when Curse of Strahd was first released, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they have tried to keep it in line with the original adventure as well.
Oh, it's very true to its origins, in a lot of ways.
I still have my old Warhammer Fantasy Undead army, so I will already have a lot of the miniatures for it as well. And I'll have an excuse to buy some new, because you can buy like all the notable NPCs as miniatures as well, including Strahd himself, of course, which would be awesome. Tomb of Annihilation, I've been told, is very difficult and very unforgiving.
It's a very meat grinder. It's not a good one for new players, in my opinion.
Right.
It's very challenging. It's a dungeon crawl as well for the most part. It is a big meat grinder of a dungeon with some other stuff. But everything that I've seen about Tomb of Annihilation, I've heard it's really good fun if you're in for that. And if your players are like, yeah, we don't care about dying, like we just want, action and, stuff like that, great, batter in. Dragon Heist is very well regarded and is very well reviewed as well. And I've heard very good things about that. It's also got a slightly modular nature to it, because the GM chooses kind of certain elements to it. I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil it for anyone listening, but there's a bit of GM choice in there, which is quite cool. Strahd, I would say, is if your players are interested in it, if they're into gothic horror and they're interested in that, and they like mystery and obviously sort of a thriller environment and stuff like that, 100% go in on it. What I will say with Curse of Strahd is do one of two things. Well, do one thing and then do one of two things after that. Don't play the intro bit of it.
The Death House, the notorious Death House, which it's the first thing that comes up when you start Googling Curse of Strahd, is a series of people just go, don't do the Death House, it's awful.
Don't do the Death House. Either run something else to get your players up to the starting level, which might be a good shout for you, to be fair, because you're getting these guys used to it, so just a bit more kind of exposure to non-campaign stuff, or just start them at the level that it starts at. But with your guys being a bit newer, I'd maybe go for the...
I would like to start them at level 1 so that they can get... Because that's a good way of learning how your character works, right? Yeah, you start at the very basic. and then you learn how leveling up works, and then it slowly gets a bit more complex.
So I would look at some of the material that gives you like 1 to 3 content. So you've got stuff like Tales from the Yawning Portal has a nice adventure in there that leads you into sort of level 1 to 3. The great thing about Curse of Strahd is you can kind of go into it from anything because you basically walk through the mists of Barovia and hey-oh.
So one thing that I've heard someone suggest is do Dragon Heist and then do Curse of Strahd. Like,
I don't know what level.
I think Dragon Heist gets you up to level 5, does it?
I don't know what level Curse of Strahd starts proper, but I think that might be a bit too high. You need to double check it.
Yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing, right? It's all modular, so I can in theory have them go in at level 5 and just figure out a way of cutting to that bit of the story.
I'd be careful with that. Right. Not because it's not doable, but because you are creating a lot of work for yourself at a very early stage of your GMing journey, and you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. And the thing is, with modules, they are written with the intent that you get the full exposure, right? And like Death House is removable; it is a modular element. But
a tutorial mission, as I've heard it described as, a tutorial mission that tries really hard to kill you.
And usually succeeds. No, you kind of want to go. You want to follow the story, I would say, and kind of go in it. You could maybe get away with a level higher, and that might actually be a bit more forgiving for your players as well if they're not as experienced. But once you start to go over that, they're going to start kind of curb stomping encounters, and you don't want that, especially in horror, because you kind of want that tension. And that element of fear. And if you set that expectation going in, it's going to be hard to kind of claw that back as you move through it. So, I mean, it's something to have a look at, and I can certainly, talk to you about that off air, and help you and support you on that as well.
I mean, conversely, is there a particular adventure path that you would really recommend?
I've never run them. I've never run a 5th edition adventure path. Right. Call of the Netherdeep is my first time running one. I tell a lie. I ran the starter kit, the D&D. I think it was like D&D starter set. It's called or something. That has an adventure in it, which I think takes you like level 5 or 6, which is really good.
Is this the one with the ice dragon?
That's Essentials. The starter set is a green dragon, I think.
Yeah.
Both are dragons. They're very true to their name of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. Here's a dungeon, and this is a dragon.
I really enjoyed that because it gives you a fully mapped out town. It tells you about everybody in the town, so it's really easy to role play out. You have like a couple of little dungeon missions that you go off on and do, and it's a very nice kind of exposure journey where it sort of shows you what happens at level 1, what happens at level 2, stuff like that. Sure. But I think if you've got players who are interested in stuff, because it's always about your player buy-in as well, is, okay, guys, I'm going to run a campaign. Here's like session 0 or even pre-session 0. What are you guys excited about? What do you want to do? And you'll get a lot of, don't know, because I've no idea what I'm doing. You'll get a lot of people who get choice paralysis, who are like, there's so much, I don't know. So then what I do in that choice, and you've experienced this, is I go, these are the 3 things I'm really excited about. Here's what they're about. Which one do you like? And then I go by majority. Unless somebody vetoes something and goes like, I absolutely don't want to do that, then I'll go by majority and go, okay, that's what we're going to do. And then we go and we do it. So I would do that if I were you, to be honest. I would say like, these are the 3 that I'm looking at. I'd probably take 2 Annihilation out there. These are the 2 I'm looking at. This is what I like about this one. This is what I like about this one. If we do this one, we'll do something else that leads into it because it starts at levels whatever, or we can do this one. What do you guys like? And they'll go, I like that because it's got this. I like that because it's got that. Blah 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 blah, and then go and do it. And that's it. You want people's buy-in. You want people to be excited. You want that enthusiasm kind of running through, and that's you. You're golden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am starting to get ahead of myself because, for all I know, they will try it and they will all hate it.
Mate, I do this all the time. All the time. I go, I'm going to run an adventure, guys. We're gonna, and you've seen this as well. I'm like, guys, I'm running Dragon Age. Let's try Dragon Age. And we play 1 session, and I go, cool, I've got 30 sessions planned. of Dragon Age, and we only end up playing 5 of them. And it's sometimes that works out. You know, I've run campaigns that have gone to the length of what I actually planned out for them at the start, and that's amazing. That is really satisfying. But conversely, I've planned out stuff that has never even seen a fifth of the content I planned.
Yeah, a bit like relationships. I bet the majority of D&D campaigns end before they're supposed to. So
it's a really dark spin on that, but sure.
Am I wrong?
So I'm conscious that we've gone a little bit long, but there is something I quickly want to touch on that is unrelated, and I mentioned this at the start of the episode.
Oh yes, sorry, forgive me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I could talk about D&D for hours, as I'm sure you and our listeners know. So I received an order today, which I was really excited about. I got my first Marvel Champions set in a while. I got the hood.
I'm glad you said in a while, because that was sounding like one of the most barefaced lies I've ever heard.
What is Marvel Champions? No, I got my first set in a while, which is the Hood, which is a villain expansion based on the Hood, who is a character who was really obscure until recently, and he just seems to have exploded into the continuity real hard. Like, someone at Marvel has gone like, we're putting a push on this guy. And I don't even like him that much. Like, he's fine, but I got it because it's an expansion and I want to get them all. And I have 2 more on the way. I have War Machine and I have Vision, the 2 hero sets for them. Now I have a moan to have, and it kind of relates to Champions, but it also relates to D&D and a lot of other things as well. These sets came out months ago, and I mean months ago. War Machine came out months before I even moved house. Which was last year. I actually ordered War Machine to my last house as a pre-order, and it took so long that it arrived after my Royal Mail redirect, which meant it got lost in the post, which meant I had to order it again. So I had to pay for this thing twice because of how long it took for the goddamn...
Did you not get a refund?
No, because the company... that's a whole other thing. The company are being arses about it because they're saying it's my fault because I ordered it to an address I'm no longer at, and blah, blah, blah. That's the whole thing. But
yikes.
Yeah, I wrote it. It's 12 quid, right? I'm not gonna go to bat for 12 quid. And it's so frustrating because it's just happening prevalently. So like D&D is actually a fairly minor. Like the Call of the Netherdeep is like a month behind when it came out in the US, which is still bad compared to where it was a few years ago when we got it the same day. But it's not as bad as the next example I'm going to give you, which is there is a Marvel Legendary expansion that's come out called Messiah Complex, which is based around Cable, who you might remember if you ever watched the animated X-Men series, and a few other...
Oh, he's in Deadpool too, isn't
he? He is in Deadpool as well, yeah. And a few other characters as well, which is a set I'm really excited about for Legendary. Came out last year, tail end of last year. Is coming out in the UK in October.
Wow.
10 months after it's released in the US. And again, these, like, a couple of years ago, they did come out a little later, but it was like weeks. It was a matter of weeks. And I'm pissed. Like, I
can tell.
Super annoyed about it because I understand that there are logistical issues with shipping and things. But to this extent that it's taking 10 months for a supply to get from the US to the UK, and it's not just the UK as well, it's impacting other parts of Europe and stuff. And this isn't to do with, things in Russia. This has been going on now for months. Yeah. It's so frustrating because I'm on a lot of communities with these things and I see people with them in the US enjoying them and talking about them and theory crafting. And by the time I get them, I want to talk about them. 3 other f***ing sets have come out.
Great.
So I just wanted to have a rant about that because it's as much as I'm really excited that I finally got this hood set and I'm getting War Machine and I'm getting Vision and I'll get to play with them or at least look at them in person until I get someone to play them with. It's so frustrating. Like, and I've looked into it and I don't really no one seems to be able to give a clear explanation of exactly what is causing the issues, whether it's a supply and demand thing, whether it's logistics, whether it's Brexit, whether it's any number of various things, fuel, whatever. And it's really a first world problem, but my God, is it an annoying one for a hobbyist.
Yeah. No, I feel your pain, man.
Yeah.
I do.
And it does... It is one of the few times I will say it leans me towards digital products.
Right,
and
yeah.
I can't do that with like the card stuff. They don't, not officially anyway. There's no official way to play Champions or Legendary. Well, there is a Legendary game, but it's garbage. To play those digitally. But like with the D&D books, at least you can get the digital versions.
Yeah.
Either from D&D Beyond or through Roll20 Direct for setting them up. But I like tangible things, especially when it comes to like D&D books and obviously for cards and stuff. Like I just feel there's something almost, and this is going to sound a bit cheesy, but almost just a bit magical about the actual book. You know, you can smell it, you can touch it.
I totally get that. Yeah. I mean, this is why I'm collecting the 40k codices. I certainly don't have any plans to run all of those or every single army that the game has to offer. It's just, it's nice to have.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. So yeah, that's just kind of my little gripe this week. That it's very frustrating, and if anybody else is in the same boat with any kind of board games, or if you're like me and you get any of these games that just don't seem to be available, I feel you, man. I'm right there with you.
You feel better for having your rant?
I do.
Now.
I feel a lot better.
Good. I'm glad. You can go enjoy your weekend.
I was so happy the postman came to the door and he had the box, and I was like a kid at Christmas. Like I opened it and I saw he had the box and I was like, "Ooh!" It's like took it.
Did
off.
you actually make that noise?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, excellent.
I had no shame. Ran back upstairs and opened it up, and I was like, "Excellent. There's going to be some cards leaving in my future."
Excellent. Right, well, before we go, guys, just our weekly reminder that we have our Patreon. The link will be below. You can donate as little as £1 or $1 per month, and it all helps with paying the various subscriptions that we've got to pay to keep this all running.
Keeps the lights on.
Yes, as we like to say. And if you can't do that, then give us a like, share, subscribe, and the usual calls to action on social media as well.
Thank you.
And on that note, I think that's all we've got time for. So thank you very much for listening. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.